So this is what we did in the cold backup. We shut down the database, we made a copy of all this command using the cp command, and we stored it in offline storage, and we started the database. Okay. Benefits: best guarantee for restartable database. Restartable database in the sense you can just take that backup, whatever you copied, anywhere, any server where database software is installed, and you can start the database. Quick recovery. You don't need to recover anything. You just copy those data files and SQL plus start up, your database is up and running. Drawbacks: database must be down, uh, and you cannot expect that the database will be recovered until the point in time because no archive logs are copied. And if there is by any chance there is a corruption in the database which you did not know about, that corruption will stay in your backup, right? Because you're making an exact copy, physical copy of this one. If there is any corruption, you will not know, and the backup will be there. Probably while starting the database, it might give you a trouble. So again, corruptions can be resolved with good backups, but since you have only cold backup, it would be difficult. So always what people do, DBs do, if they take a cold backup, they will have a server which they can use for some testing. So what they will do is they'll try to copy those backup to that server and try to start the database and see if that backup is good backup or not, right? If you are able to copy that one and just start the database without any issues, then you can guarantee that that is a good backup, and you can save it for how much ever time is required. Okay, so that was cold backup, offline backup, or cold backup. Now, next comes the online backup or hot backup. So when we say online backup, basically your database is up and running, your database is online. Okay, and online backup is meaningful or helpful only when your database is in archive log mode. Why is that like that? We will see in the next slide. So basically, what happens when a database is in archive log mode? It is basically making a copy of all the changes which is happening in the database during that time. Okay, so put this down. So this is how we do the hot backup, right? So we have control files, we have parameter files, and we have I don't know how to hack this. Okay, we have password files, same files which we had earlier. And here extra thing is we have a archive redo log files. So all this you copy to a storage along with other data files and everything. Data files is missing here, but what is missing here is we are not copying the online redo log files. So what about the changes which happened to the database while we were doing the copy? Like in the cold backup, you shut down the database, so no changes is happening, application is not connecting to database, so nothing is changing. But in hot backup, the database is up and running, application is still running, and it is doing changes. But while doing these changes, what about those redo log files which are created? What about the archive redo log files which we have created? Those are not copied, right? And how do you know until what time you have to copy that one, right? So that is a lot of confusion, like until what SCN I need to copy the archive logs. If you started a hot backup uh, say at 8 p.m. today, and it was a huge database, 1 terabyte, and it went until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Okay, so for 12 hours, you need to again make a copy of all the archive logs which were generated in that time, right? And the online data logs. So it's kind of a never-ending process. Again, while taking the archive log backups, if archive logs also were huge, again some more archive logs generated, take a backup of that one also. So it kind of keeps on going until you come to a point like, okay, until this point everything is backed up. So it will be a difficult part. So in hot backup, there is um, a logic which is applied, which we'll see in the next slide. Here also in hot backup also same thing we are doing. We are making a copy of all the files, but only difference is your database is up and running. So data files. I told you about the logic, right? What exactly the logic is in a hot backup. We run this command which is called as alter table space name begin backup, or you can say alter database begin backup. So when you run this command, what happens is this command goes and freezes all the headers of the table spaces. So what it basically does is don't update anything in my headers, right, until this begin backup is stopped. Until the state of the begin backup is there, let me try to show you what exactly the state changes, right? Okay. I think the status column is what changes. Let me select table space underscore name status from db underscore table spaces. Select. Okay, here status is online, right? Now what I will do is alter database and alter table space users begin backup. Now I run this one. No, not this. Let me see if I have it in my notes. Let's see. Okay, so when we say begin backup, it basically putting in the header of the table space that no updates will happen. No updates in the sense any changes happening, the changes will be recorded into the online read log files, and archive log files will be generated, but no changes will occur on the table spaces or the data files. It's frozen state. It is like in a closed box, no changes goes in. And when that begin backup is run, after that what you do is you copy all the data files. You can copy the data files, control files, parameter files. You can copy all these files earlier, and then you can put this begin backup, make a copy of all the data files using the same cp command, and then you do the end backup. After doing the end backup, what you do is you make a copy of the archive redo log files again, whatever the new archive redo log files were generated. Because let me try to explain you in this way. So let's say at time t0, okay, so at time t0 you took a backup of control files and p file, for example. Okay, now here changes are happening. Say this is the SCN of database. Okay, it was 1000. Okay, then at time t1 you took a backup, you took a backup of archive logs, existing archive logs. Okay, at this point your SCN become 1100. Now you put the, now this is dbSCN. Okay, let me put another column here, dbSCN and table space header SCN. Okay, all right. So at time, and at this time the table space header SCN also was same as the dbSCN or the control file SCN, ctrl file SCN. Okay, at time t2 you put that you froze the uh, headers of table space by using that alter table space begin backup command. At that time, database SCN was 1200, and this one also was 1200. Okay. Now you are copying the data files. Copying of data files. Now database SCN is 1300. This SCN is still 1200. Okay. You are still copying data files. Database SCN is 1400. This is still 200 because we have asked it to not update anything. So header is frozen. No changes are getting applied on the data files. Now let's put one more 1500, and this is still 1200. Now how much redo logs were generated here? Okay, redo logs, let's say each redo log is has 100 SCN numbers. Okay, we had 0 redo log. Here one redo log got generated. Here another one got generated. Here one and one and one. Okay. Okay, so many redo logs got generated. Now when you froze this table space, these changes in this redo log was not applied at this point, right? These changes in this online redo logs were not applied in the table spaces or the data files. So but archiver process made a copy of this one. We made a copy of all this online redo log files and it saved it there. Okay, now you say end backup. You unfroze that thing, and at that time it was 1600. Now at 1600, since you did the end backup, this will start applying the changes on the data files. So say it is applying slowly, and at this point it was 1300. Okay, now DB working fine, DB working normal, and this is 700. This slowly came to 1500. It applied changes. T8 again, DB working fine, this 1800, and this came up to 1700. It is slowly applying changes in a faster way than the amount of changes happening. And at T9, DB working normal, this is 1900 and this is also 1900. Okay, now your control file SCN and your table space header SCN are same. Slowly it will pick up. I just gave you time intervals just to explain, but this would happen within seconds, not even within seconds, within microseconds. It will quickly go and apply the changes. Now at this point, when your data files were frozen, once you end backup, right? Okay, at this point when the database was frozen, these 3 archive logs were generated. Now you just need these 3 archive logs to be copied after your whole data file copy is done at the using the cp command. So you make copy of these one and put it in the same location. You have copy of data files and you had copy of control file plus the sp file already. Okay, so this would be your whole backup, which will help you restore your database. Now at this, in this backup also, you will be able to restore until SCN 1500 only or 1600 maximum when you ran the end backup, right? If you want SCN's changes until 1900, then what you'll have to do is you'll have to make more backup of the archive logs later on after that end backup is done, and there's a process called as recovery which will basically apply the changes to the restored database. Okay, so that can be done, but with the hot backup again there is a limitation, like until how much you can take a backup until this point end backup, but again with the extra work you can try to recover until the required point in time. So that is how hot backup works. Any questions on this? Or you got confused?
A little bit, but not good.
What is the confusion about?
In general, I
As
mean,
you go further, it is going to get complex a little bit. That's why I want to make sure you are clear with this concept. These small concepts will be used further in next few classes. Yeah, go ahead. Where you had the confusion?
Yeah, I mean the freezing of this
Mm-hmm.
redo log.
No, freezing will happen only at the table space level. Freezing will happen means, see, every time changes are happening in the database, some user is connecting to the database and they're trying to update. Say, for example, user is trying to update the employee's last name, right? Your employee table exists in a data file. Okay, let me try to put it in a box. So this is our so this is our table space, right? Okay, and I'll take a inner box. Say this is our the green one is data file. Inside the data file we have table. Okay, table. Okay, so this table is called as an employee table. Now when a change happens, somebody tried to log in and they want to change the table last name of the employee. Let me put this columns of the table: first name, last name, and say salary. Okay, so just to make it look like a table. Okay, so first name, last name, and salary columns are there in this table, and somebody made a change to change the last name of the employee. Okay, now that change comes in and it goes and updates this one. Now this change gets recorded into our online read log file, correct?
Yeah.
Read log. Okay, so it gets recorded. Say ABC was a change, and this gets recorded with the SCN number of say 100. Okay,
Mm.
so this keeps on happening in the database. In the background, this is what is happening basically. Okay, now you froze this table space. Okay, you said begin backup and this table space is frozen.
Okay.
Now when this table space is frozen and say there was another request to change the salary, this change will not get inside this box. This change will only be recorded into this redo log. Okay, and archive redo log will be generated when the redo log gets filled up. Okay, now until your table space is frozen, this change is not coming inside this data file. So basically the idea behind that one is whatever copy you make of the data file when this table space is frozen, there is no active changes happening in the data file. That is like same like your database is stopped.
Mm.
You are just trying to mimic a situation where your database is stopped. When database is stopped, what basically is happening, no changes happening in the data files table space, right? So you're trying to mimic that kind of setup by just running a command to freeze your table space, right? So when this frozen state is there, nothing, no changes are happening. You copy the data files, all the backups are done, and then when you remove this frozen state, when you remove this frozen state, then the changes which were there, right, in the redo log, there the database keeps track of those changes.
Okay.
So then those changes go and get updated into the table space.
Okay.
Okay, so but again, these changes which happened, you want a backup of that one also, because as per t time t6, I want to recover until this point. Okay, if you
Okay.
don't take a backup of this change xyz, then say for example change xyz happened here, and if you don't take the archive log backup for the change happened to xyz, then that change will never come in your backup. So you will end up having the state of the table space as of that of t2. You
Mm.
cannot claim that I can recover the database until t6. You can only recover the database until t2 because you do not have the archive logs to make the changes on the data files, which will take until time t6. Did that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So technically putting a different term, but just in the back end, if you think we are trying to just mimic that whole backup scenario. So again, what are the advantages of this hot backup is basically your database is always available. You don't need to shut down the database. You can do the backup at table space level also. Say for example, there's a database with 5 tablespaces, and each table space is used by a different application. Right. So there is a huge application, and there are 5 main subdivisions in that application. And for some reason, each subdivision is supported by a different application team. So you have 5 major table spaces. And if only one team wants to do some changes and they say take a backup, then you can specifically focus on that one particular table space without touching other table spaces. Okay. Now, if that table space has some dependency on the other table space, then you need to think on that perspective that if there is a dependency, then your backup might not get in sync with that other table space. So it's better to take both the dependent table spaces backup. Right. So just throw out that question to the application team. It's their responsibility to understand how the application works, but it's your responsibility just to remind them that if there is any dependency of one table space with other table space, then your backup is of no use. So let me know if there is any dependency, because they know how the application works. We do not care about how application works. We only care about how the database works. Again, why you have to ask the question? Because tomorrow when he needs a database, the backup to be restored, and you restored it, no issues with restore, and he tried to start the application and application is telling some data is mismatching, then comes a bad scenario where you might figure out that this would have happened, but again you feel bad, like we could have thought about it, and this scenario can be avoided. So those kind of scenarios can be avoided. Just think about, uh, in database, Oracle database, there is a lot about dependencies. Few times one table will be dependent on the data of other table. So if they delete the data of other table, then the first table also has to be recreated, something like that. So as and when you see those errors, it keeps on changing. Your thought process keeps on changing, so you will slowly evolve out of it. So nothing to worry right now. But again, drawbacks of this online backup is setup and administration is more complex. You have to remember to put the table space into backup mode, database in backup mode, and then rollback and everything is problematic. If you forget to remove this backup mode, what will happen? So your table space will always be in frozen mode. You forgot to remove the table space in frozen state. This is frozen. Archive logs are generating. Now, at one point, say after 10 days, you forgot about removing the table space from backup mode. After 10 days, something happened to the database, or you had shut down the database. And when you want to start up the database, problem will be, say for example, again, we use the 5 tablespace scenario. Okay. So we froze this tablespace, and this is at SCN 1200. But these table spaces are not frozen. They went to SCN 5000. Okay. All the headers are with SCN 5000. Okay. Now you shut down the database. You don't know that table space 1 was put in a frozen state. You shut down the database. Now when you are starting the database, the first thing database checks is my control file SCN, which is 5000, matches with the SCN of the data files in this table spaces. All these data files will match. This data file in this table space says I'm still at 1200. I'm not matching. Now database will give you that error that, okay, we need to recover this table space since the changes do not match. The changes are very old. Now comes the point where you have to think about how to apply those changes from 1200 to 5000. Where are all those changes? All your changes are in the archive logs, right? If you had that archive logs, you had taken a backup of the archive logs, good. If you don't have those archive logs, you are in danger, right? If this scenario happens in production database, you forgot to remove the frozen thing, then we are in very much problematic situation. In production, we have backups. We don't really take a hot backup this kind of in production, but there are few companies who internally do this logic just to take a snapshot backup, which is like the operating system level snapshot backup. And if for some reason they did not revert this back in their automation, you will be DBA will be the one who will be end up sitting a whole night and fixing the issue, right? So always whenever you get a chance, if something of such thing is happening where they're freezing the headers, then just set up a job which will kind of check the status every day morning and send you an email. That way every day you check that email for all production databases. That is not happening, the frozen state is not happening, you are happy, and you for sure know that there might be less issues with this database. Okay. So, like I said, administration is complex. You need to remember once you turn it on, you have to turn it off, and you might cause problems with recovery. So, this is the steps for online backup. So, this is just an let me see if this will help you understand better. So, this is the steps. So, how the SCN system changes, right? So, every redo log file has something called as a log file number, a low SCN, and a high SCN. Okay, what is the lowest SCN in the redo log file from where the redo log started to write, and what is the highest one? So here in this scenario, it's just a pictorial way of representing how the changes happen. So the orange ones are basically the SCN numbers. Okay, data files, read logs, and control files. So assuming our database SCN is set at 1 right now. Okay, changes happened, the SCN went to 2. It is started writing to redo log 2. Now redo log 1 copy is being made by archiver process. Now same thing happening, the switch occurred again, it started writing to redo log 1 with change with the SCN sequence number 3, not SCN number, sequence number 3, and it keeps on going on. Let's assume this is SCN number, that's better. Let's not bring the sequence number. So SCN number updating control file, data file, and the redo log files. Okay, so changes are happening. Okay, now you took a backup of data files at SCN number 5. You took a backup of data files, control files. You took it on a tape device. The tape device, this is nothing but our old we used to have the video cassettes, right? We used to watch movies on the video cassettes when we were small, so that kind of tapes, same thing, just magnetic tapes. On those the backups will be stored, and those are very cheap. So cheap in the sense less operating expenses to the company if they use a tape backups. But the demerit is it will take time to copy the backups from the tape backups. So you took the backup, you put it on the tapes, and then changes happened while taking the backups. See here, when changes are happening here, the changes are happening, but the backup files, there are no changes happening, it is stuck at 5. Okay, now say for example something happened to the data files. Okay, in that case, when you have to what you'll have to do is shut down the database, mount the database, copy the backup files which you had copied, either using the hard backup or cold backup, whatever you copied. Then so we saw it was at 5, right, when we took the backup. So we took the backup of data files, control files, and the read log files at that time. So restore that one and recover database. It will apply all the archive logs for 5, 6, and 7 which were there, and 8 and 9 for the online data logs which were there, and then you open the database. So basically this scenario is when your data file say for example data file is corrupted or data file was deleted by mistake, in that case, you just copy the data file from the backups and you just ask the database to recover. How do we ask database to recover? We'll see that in later chapters. And after that, once your database is open, shut down the database, take a good cold backup, because there was some changes which happened on the database which caused the data file to be deleted or crashed. So if you take a new cold backup, you can use that backup as a good backup to go back to at any point of time, because the backups before that one are kind of mismatched, right? Because the data file was restored and you open the database again. So that is how we kind of get the data files back from the backups. Okay, this kind of a little bit of recovery concept. I did not want to do the recovery concept today, so we will do that recovery concept today, tomorrow. And this is about hot and cold backups. How we do it, how we take cold and hot backups, and what exactly they are. Right? Any questions on this one?
No.
Okay.